People always judge a marriage when the husband is older, especially when he's rich. But honestly, I don't care. If an 82-year-old billionaire wants to marry a gorgeous 28-year-old woman with perfect legs and good skin, who's the victim exactly? That's what I used to tell people. Yes, my husband was dying, but I was a great wife. I smiled through his coughing fits. I kissed him through the smell of medicine and peppermint. I sat through stories about the good old days, while he wheezed into a blanket wearing silk pajamas that probably cost more than my first apartment. And in return, I got the mansion, the jewelry, the money, the cars. That's called compromise.
Angela?
His voice sounded like paper tearing. I looked up from my phone. Mr. Berk sat near the fireplace with that stupid chimpanzee beside him. Chip, God, I hated that monkey. The chimp sat in a tiny cardigan sweater while Mr. Berk fed him strawberries by hand like he was a grandchild.
You should smile more,
Berk told me warmly. Chip copied him with an ugly little grin. I forced one back. I smile all the time, honey. Chip made a fake kissing noise. Matt, the caretaker, snorted while cleaning nearby. I shot him a glare. What's funny?
Nothing, ma'am.
Then wipe that smirk off your face. Chip suddenly grabbed Berk's glasses and sprinted across the living room.
Oh my goodness, Chip.
Berk laughed. The chimp climbed the chandelier, screeching triumphantly while the old man laughed so hard he started coughing. Matt rushed over, worried. I didn't. I just sat there thinking, one day this entire house will finally be quiet. Mr. Berk adored that animal. Apparently he rescued him from some disgusting roadside zoo years ago. Chip saved me, he once told me. Please, it was a monkey, not a firefighter. Still, the chimp followed him everywhere, sat beside him during meals, watched TV with him, even slept near his bed. And somehow everyone acted like it was adorable instead of deeply unsettling. One time I walked into the kitchen and Chip was sitting at the island wearing one of Berk's reading glasses upside down while eating waffles. Matt looked at him proudly like he'd cured cancer.
He used a fork today,
Matt said. Wonderful, I replied dryly. Maybe next week he can file taxes. As the months passed, Mr. Berk got weaker, and weaker, and weaker. The coughing became worse. The oxygen tank became permanent. Some nights I'd wake up and just stare at him in bed. Not because I loved him, because I was checking if he'd stopped breathing. Then finally, one morning, he did. The funeral was beautiful. Huge turnout, politicians, businessmen, old family friends. Even Matt cried. Chip kept making soft whining noises in the corner of the church wearing a tiny black bow tie. Honestly, that almost got me. Almost. But after the guests left, after the casseroles and sympathy hugs, after the fake tears, I stood alone in that mansion holding a glass of wine. And I smiled, finally. No more coughing. No more medicine smell. No more changing old man diapers at 2 a.m. I laughed out loud. I made it. Chip stared at me from the hallway. I pointed at him. And you, he tilted his head. You are gone. Then came the will, and everything changed. The lawyer adjusted his glasses nervously.
Mrs. Berk, there is one condition.
I frowned. What condition?
To inherit Mr. Berk's estate in full, Chip must remain under your care for the duration of his life.
Silence. I blinked slowly. Excuse me?
The animal must be properly fed, sheltered, medically maintained, and remain in your custody.
I stared at him in disbelief. You're telling me I have to babysit a monkey to become rich? The lawyer cleared his throat.
Yes.
I laughed, then stopped laughing. Because he wasn't joking. That disgusting animal became my prison. At first I tolerated him. Barely, but Chip was annoying. Always wandering. Always touching things. One morning I found him in my bathtub eating grapes. Another time he opened my makeup drawer and smeared lipstick across his face like a clown. And every time I yelled at him, he'd make that little sad face. The same face Berk used to melt over. I hated that face. So eventually I locked him in the guest room upstairs. Much easier, food twice a day. Water, done. Sometimes he'd bang on the door for hours. Other times he'd sit quietly. Almost human, that part bothered me most. A few weeks later I invited a man over. Ethan, tall, young, beautiful smile. Actually my type for once. Dinner was perfect. Candles, wine, steak. He laughed at all my jokes. Then crash, we both turned. Chip sprinted into the dining room wearing one of Berk's old ties around his neck. "Oh my God," I hissed. Chip jumped onto the table and stuffed mashed potatoes into his mouth with both hands. Ethan burst out laughing.
"This is amazing!"
"It is not amazing." Chip then grabbed Ethan's wine glass and drank from it. The chimp immediately spat it everywhere before screeching loudly and knocking over a candle. Ethan laughed harder. I wanted to die. That night after Ethan left, I snapped, "You know what? Fine." I dragged Chip outside with a leash while he screeched angrily. "You want to act like an animal? Then live outside like one." Rain clouds rolled overhead. I tied him beneath the backyard awning. "There." Chip stared at me silently. No screeching, no fighting. Just staring. Honestly, it creeped me out. Days passed, life improved. Shopping sprees, spa visits, cocktails. Men, freedom. I barely thought about Chip anymore. Sometimes I'd toss food outside without even looking at him. And one night, I threw all of Berk's old photographs into the trash. Every single one. That same week Teddy came by. The animal specialist Berk hired years ago. He immediately frowned seeing Chip outside.
What the hell happened to him?
"He's a monkey, Teddy. He's outside. He'll survive." Teddy crouched near Chip carefully. Chip looked awful. Wet fur, sunken eyes, heavy breathing, and on his arm...
A bite mark.
Ugly. Red. Swollen.
He got attacked by something.
Teddy said seriously. I shrugged. "Can you just give him whatever shot and leave?" Teddy looked horrified.
Angela, this animal needs medical attention.
"Well, he's not getting it." He stood slowly.
You know, Mr. Berk loved that chimp more than anything.
"Good for him."
You're a cold woman.
"And you're fired." Teddy stared at me with disgust before leaving. But before he walked out, he paused.
If he starts acting strange, don't go near him.
That night it stormed hard. Rain hammered the mansion windows while thunder shook the walls. I had another guest over. Marcus, rich, handsome. Drunk already, perfect. Before he arrived, I checked on Chip. Even I almost recoiled. His fur was soaked. His eyes were cloudy. Foam dripped from his mouth. And he kept twitching strangely. Ugh, gross! I tossed food near him. "Don't ruin my night." Hours later, Marcus and I laughed together in the living room while lightning flashed outside. Then crash! The window exploded inward. Rain poured across the floor. And standing there was Chip, soaking wet, breathing hard, his mouth hanging open unnaturally, bloodshot eyes, foam dripping down his chin, chunks of broken leash still wrapped around his wrist. Marcus laughed drunkenly.
Jesus.
But I didn't laugh. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Chip stared at us, then let out this horrible shrieking scream. Marcus stepped closer.
Easy there, little girl.
Chip glanced at him. The sound... God! The sound! Marcus screamed as Chip tore into his face. Not scratching. Ripping. Blood sprayed across the walls. Marcus fell backward, choking, while Chip bit into his throat violently, and I ran upstairs while hearing Marcus screaming behind me. Then the screaming stopped. But Chip didn't. I heard wet chewing, animal noises, then footsteps. Fast, coming upstairs. I locked myself inside the bedroom, shaking violently. The door slammed repeatedly. Boom, boom, boom. Chip shrieked outside like something demonic. Wood splintered. Then suddenly, a hairy arm punched through the door. I screamed. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a letter opener, and stabbed through the hole. Chip screeched in pain. Then silence. I stumbled backward, sobbing. That's when I remembered the gun. Mr. Berk's revolver, still inside the dresser. My hands shook as I aimed toward the door. A shadow moved. Bang, bang, bang. Silence, complete silence. Then distant sirens. Police. Oh, thank God. I opened the bedroom door slowly. Blood covered the hallway. And there lay Chip, motionless, 3 bullet wounds in his chest. I almost laughed from relief. Downstairs, the officers entered cautiously. "Ma'am, I'm up here," I cried. I rushed toward them, and behind me, something moved. Chip suddenly lunged upward, screaming. One officer barely turned before Chip slammed onto him. The chimp bit directly into his face. The cop's screams echoed through the mansion as Chip tore skin from bone. The second officer fired wildly. Bang, bang, one shot hit the wall. Another hit the first officer. Then Chip leapt onto him too. The screaming became wet. Short, then nothing. I ran, barefoot, crying, slipping on blood. But before I reached the stairs, Chip hit me from behind. I crashed hard onto the floor. My ankle snapped sideways. Pain exploded through me. I turned slowly, and there he stood, covered in blood, breathing heavily, one eye swollen shut, foam hanging from his mouth. But what terrified me most was the way he looked at me, not like an animal, like he hated me. Thunder flashed, and for one horrible second, he almost looked human. I crawled backwards, sobbing. "Please," Chip tilted his head, just like he used to when Berk spoke to him. Then slowly, he climbed over me. Warm blood dripped onto my face, and as his mouth opened wide, I finally understood something. Mr. Berk never left me his fortune. He left me his revenge.
The next morning, police found what remained of Angela Berk inside the mansion. Chip was never found. Some say during heavy storms. You can still hear screeching somewhere deep in the woods.